All right, we are live again, and I apologize for technical difficulties, but yeah, I guess it happens sometimes. So we are back. Randall will be on in just a second, so we're going to get it started again. So this is going to be head-to-head sports coming up in just a minute. As soon as I know that Randall has gotten the link and everything's going to be good. Yeah, definitely apologize for that. That'll hopefully give you guys time to get back into this new link. Um, Matter of fact, maybe I should. Well, I see other folks are starting to come in, so they did find it good. I know we were having some camera issues, so we will get the sports show started in just a second. Like I said, I'm just waiting for my co-host to join in. We'll get the intro going, and then we'll get right into the show. Hope everybody is having a great Wednesday. We're going to have a lot to talk about. We're going things going on in the NFL, surprising releases, trades, all kinds of things. Man, it's just been absolutely bonkers. But we want to hear from you guys. How are your teams looking after the first 4 weeks? I think some of y'all just reading way too many tea leaves after 4 games. It's a long season, it's 17 games. Of course, you definitely want to be one of those teams that you're starting out hot. I totally get that. But at the same time, we want to make sure that, are we reading more into it than we should? And yes, Cowboy fans, I'm talking to you. Because first you say you ain't played nobody. I mean, the teams that you play and that you beat ain't play nobody. Then all of a sudden, when you beat them, yeah, like you just won the Super Bowl. So I'm confused. So let me know what's going on. You can respond in our live chat, or if you'd like to come on to the show and talk to us for a couple of minutes, you can do that as well. We're going to open that up in just a second. Like I said, I'm waiting for my co-host to join in. Um, and there he is. So we're going to start the intro, and then we'll be right back after that. All right, there he is. Welcome to Head to Head Sports. I'm your host, Brian Parker, along with my co-host, and we can see him, and he's here, Mr. Randall Hargrove. How you doing, sir?
Man, you should have just kept it rolling with the camera off. Nobody needs to see this mug.
No, I want them to see the sincerity in your eyes when we start talking about your Pittsburgh Steelers. um, I won't ask you to start on Pittsburgh because that may be a little emotional. Um, but I wanted to start kind of where I left off in my pre monologue before we just started this show because I got a bone to pick with these Cowboy fans, and I was hoping somebody on in your group, the water cooler, wasn't going to bring it up because I was trying to hold back. And even when I saw somebody did finally say something about ain't nobody saying nothing now about my Cowboys, I still wasn't gonna say nothing. I saw it sit there for a minute. Once you responded, I was like, okay, let me go ahead and dig in. Because all the way leading up to the Carolina Dallas game, every prognosticator out there from Shannon and Skip and all of them on ESPN talking about, well, I don't trust Carolina because they're 3-0, but they ain't beat nobody. They played the Jets, they played the Saints, and they played Houston. So 2 out of the 3 were rookie quarterbacks. And then they had famous Jameis as the other one who they caught bad Jameis on that day. Even though they statistically have the number 1 defense in the league, we don't know how much to really expect out of Carolina because really they ain't beat nobody. Okay, but they're 3-0, but they still ain't beat nobody. Well, they played who was on their schedule, but they still ain't beat nobody. Okay, so then if the Cowboys beat them, then there shouldn't really be any shock or surprise because you're playing a team that hadn't beat anybody. It was the same thing people said about Dallas. I believe it was either last year or the year before when they started out 3-0, but everybody they beat was in their conference who had a losing season. So I'm like, okay, well, if you beat the Carolina Panthers, then surely that doesn't validate your team because you did what you were supposed to do. If anything, it would seem like if Carolina won that game, it would have been the upset. But it was really, really funny how after they beat the Carolina Panthers, not just Dallas fans, but the whole damn media talked about, man, now we think the Cowboys are legit. Why? Because they beat a team that you just said 2 days ago hadn't beat nobody. So how did the Carolina Panthers legitimize the Dallas Cowboys for being contenders in the NFC and potential Super Bowl contenders when they lost to Tampa Bay? They barely beat the Chargers in overtime with a late field goal. Then they whooped up on the Philadelphia Eagles, and then they beat the Carolina Panthers, who hadn't played nobody. How are you validated, Cowboy fans? Explain it. Help me make that make sense to me. Were the Panthers really formidable, or were they not? Did you really take into account their 3-0 record and being the number one defense in the league, or had they just played a bunch of bums? It can't be both. And they didn't even have, arguably, their best player and arguably one of the best players. So I don't take moral victories. We lost the game, even though I don't know what forward progress means anymore.
Oh my God.
You know, I seen some questions. I mean, listen, I know we're going to get into that too about not just this game with some questionable calls, but man, block kicks and holdings. I mean, I just saw so much stuff this weekend with officiating, period. But I'm just saying, Cowboy fans, I'm glad you feel good about your team. Remember this though. It's only 4 weeks in. I hear Marcus Spears getting all happy. Boy, y'all just remind me of Lucy and Charlie Brown with that football. Y'all set yourselves up so much in September and October, and then by December, y'all ready to go down to Dallas and burn AT&T Stadium down to the ground. I don't know why y'all set yourselves up like this. Y'all don't beat nobody. Y'all think that the Super Bowl is won in October, apparently, because y'all celebrate too early. It's 4 games. 4. There's 17 games. Dallas, if you lose the rest of your games, it won't matter that you won the 3 out of the first 4. It don't matter. Now, given I am looking at your schedule, you have a very, very favorable schedule. There is no doubt in my mind that you should go to the playoffs this year. But there is no guarantee in my mind that you will win. See, here's the problem. Only one team gets a bye. So you will play the first week of the playoffs because you're probably not going to have the best record in the NFC. You know, I think the Rams, the Cardinals, the Seahawks, the Packers, the Bucks have something to say about that. You haven't shown me quite yet that you're in that tier. You may be in the next tier under. Maybe. I don't know yet because according to you guys, you ain't beat nobody yet except for the Chargers. Because you lost to Tampa, you beat the Chargers barely. And then Philly and Carolina hadn't beat nobody, so they were a bunch of bums. So your only quality win, according to y'all, was the fact that you beat the Chargers in overtime and you barely lost to Tampa Bay, which when I look at the stat line, they still say an L. So you really only had one quality win in your first 4 games. So, you know, when I'm looking at the NFC West, they're stacked 1-4 because I'm going to have to give Arizona some love. And that hurts because I still ain't, I've been the holdout against Kyler Murray, but he just keeps going in week and week out and just making me look bad. So at some point, I'm going to have to just finally just give in, I guess. But y'all stop trying to be Charlie Brown and Lucy with the football. Every time y'all get y'all hopes up that y'all about to go to the Super Bowl, like I'm gonna have to give Stephen A. Smith some credit. He said it perfectly today. He said some teams just are allergic to prosperity. In Dallas, since 1995, anytime prosperity come your way, you start sneezing. So let me get off my horse and welcome in my co-host, Mr. Randall Hargrove. I just had to get that off my chest because I get so many Cowboy fans. Like, you don't hear from them. It's almost like they're nervous to say anything. And then when they get a little bit of a win, it just goes, it just blows their mind. And then they don't know what to do. They just lose it. They just
overboard.
Overboard.
It's like, overboard. Okay. That's all it is.
I hear your enthusiasm, but damn. Anthony Price says Cowboys always have an easy schedule and still don't go all the way. That's absolutely right. Because you can have teams that are great regular season teams that do absolutely nothing come playoff time. So, that's just kind of the Cowboys' MO. And it's like when you've seen the movie so many times, you don't really have to guess the ending. You know the ending. You just don't necessarily know how they're going to get to that ending, but you know what the ending is. So, Cowboy fans, I'm happy that you're 3-1. You should be happy too. More than likely, you're going to win 10 games. And yes, to be able to get to the Super Bowl, you got to get to the playoffs. I totally get that. But just take it one game at a time. I was prepared as a Carolina Panthers fan. The fact that we're 3-1 after the first 4 games, I'm happy. I'm good. I'll take that every day. But for y'all, that's like the chip. That's it. we 75%. We won the chip. No, it don't work like that, Cowboy fans. Trust me. I know a lot of y'all Cowboy fans ain't been around since the last time they won a playoff game, but that ain't really how the playoffs work. So I can understand that too. Maybe a lot of y'all just ain't been around long enough to know how it works. So Anthony says, how do you feel about that trade from the Patriots? Well, I won't get into that. Look, bro, I'm gonna be honest with you. First, when I heard the report this morning that Gilmore was released, I was like, what? And I'm thinking, oh God, he's going to Tampa, he's going to Baltimore, he's maybe Kansas City is gonna call him. I'm thinking all of this, right? And then I see the refreshed report. Actually, he wasn't released. He was traded to the Carolina Panthers. I said, hi, damn. I said, Matt Rule and Tepper are all in.
Look, man.
They in.
I'm going to tell you something. Fitterer and Fitterer, Rule, and the owner, Tepper, they're not playing games.
They ain't playing games.
They promised us when this regime took over in the summertime that they would be in on every deal. I'll be damned if they're not. Every deal. Tepper, you got to tell me what do you know about these other GMs that you could just steal players from these organizations like you've been fleecing them from?
Wow.
6th round pick for Gilmore. I don't care what age he is.
For 2023.
In 2023, so not even next year. So what dirt do you have on these other teams that you're able to fleece them in the manner that you fleece them?
Bruh, when I saw that just an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, my mouth hit the floor.
I was driving.
I agree with you. I agree with you. He's playing for this season.
Yeah, these are we're used to the Herneys and the Gettlemans of the world. We've been used to that for years.
Definitely.
Bad deals, bad draft picks. We're in a new regime with these boys, and they ain't kidding, man. They're not kidding. They're not kidding.
And you know what? I mean, he's playing it smart because basically what he's saying is, even if our offense is having a bad day, our defense is going to choke you and constrain your offense, that if it gets into a battle of field position, we like our chances. That's what they're saying to you, is that we're going to commit so much on the defenses. The front four was already unquestioned. Then you had Dante Jackson, Jeremy Chin, now you got J.C. Horn that's out. You just replaced him with the guy down from Jacksonville. Now you got Gilmore coming back after week 6. Y'all, we going into week 5. He gonna be ready sooner than later. He can't come off the pup until week 6 with the quad. Yeah. And depending on where he is in his rehab, he got to get in the game shape and all that other kind of stuff. But then Carolina has a bye not too long right after that. So they're priming themselves for the second half of the season to make a push, because look at it this way. They're 3-1. Tampa's 3-1. They're both tied for the NFC South. They trying to make that push. That was a great move. Anthony says the Patriots leaked that news to get something out of it. They played smart with it. They did. Because if they released him without a trade, then they were just going to have to eat that salary. So now that they got a willing dancing partner, Carolina's going to pick up 5.8 or 5.3 million of his salary. So that helps the Patriots out, who were only about $50,000 under the salary cap. Now they have an extra $5.8 million to play with. So they got up from under that. But that was an incredible deal that went down. I think another one that happened was Jalen Smith getting released after being named team captain on Sunday against the Panthers.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to him in a second, but you could do a whole lot better in your cornerback rotation than I mean, you can't do much better than who we got: Henderson, Gilmore, and Jackson. Right now, going into next year, you could add and possibly even playoffs for this year. We'll see. You could add Horn as well. The Carolina Panthers are realizing this is a passing league. And as explosive as you have wide receivers, especially in our division, we're going to need pieces to stop those explosive wide receivers.
Oh my gosh. We played Tampa twice a season. You got Evans and Godwin.
Right. Exactly.
You got Michael Thomas coming back for the Saints at some point. Lock down one side of the field. Oh my God.
Don't forget Antonio Brown over there.
Don't forget Antonio Brown. We have Calvin Ridley with the Hawks in our division. So that is a great move. That's a great move. Absolutely.
Absolutely. You got a cornerback in Melvin for the Panthers who ain't bad at all. But it's barely going to be able to get on the field now. That's how deep this secondary is.
Unless you run a bunch of dime packages, he'll be in that end. But you're right. That just gives them so much more flexibility that when they do start to run nickels and dimes and stuff like that, oh my God. Yeah. You got bigger corners and that's just a beautiful move. And for a steal, I mean, you're only paying him $5 million.
Right.
They're going to let the season play out. They're not going to look at doing any kind of extension, which I think they should. I mean, he's in the prime of his career. He's only 2 years removed from being player of the year. So I'd go ahead and do it. But that's just me. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself now, like a Cowboys fan. We ain't won no chip, but I do like to see the progress. Anthony, but I have to say the Cowboys did run all over the Panthers.
Yeah, let's analyze that a little bit. Now, it wasn't the greatest of games by Carolina. We did a bad job in trying to stop the run. But we had 2 members of our secondary out, 2 of the 4 that we had depended on for the previous 3 weeks, and that had got us that number 1 ranking that we had. Burris was out of the game. He's our safety. J.C. Horn went out the game. He's our best cornerback. So I knew there would be some problems with also stopping the pass, and it kind of showed with that. So Cowboy fans, good win, hand clap for the victory, but just ease up a little bit. Just ease up just a tad on our expectations here.
And you got to understand, like when your receivers, when we have to sit there and basically do a lot more helping with Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Wilson, and those guys because of the suspect secondary, that is going to open up a lot more holes in your running game.
Absolutely.
Because your linebackers are now having to help drop back in pass coverage. So if there's play action and things like that where they're faking the pass, the run to set up the pass and vice versa, you are going to start to have those holes open. So I'm not making an excuse. It was by far one of Zeke's best games in quite some time because the hit on him had been his best days were behind him. And keep in mind, Cowboy fans, that even after Adrian Peterson's peak, we saw flashes from a game here and a game there. One game doesn't mean that he's back. So again, pump the brakes. I'm not saying Zeke didn't play a hell of a game. He absolutely did. Their rushing game was wonderful. But put it in the context of, can he rip this off consistently like he did his first 3 seasons? Watching Zeke go over 100 yards a game in his first 3 seasons was just another day ending in Y. Now when he does it, it's something to marvel at because it brings you back to his first 3 seasons. Are you going to consistently get that out of your running game? And people are going to say, well, Brian, we don't need to, because then that can just air it out. Okay. But if you really look at it, in a lot of the early games, they weren't as committed to the run. First game against Tampa, they weren't, because they knew that Tampa's front 7 wasn't going to have it at all. So they went ahead and just said, okay, we're going to show a little run, but we ain't going to be committed to it like that. We're going to really just air it out. And they did. And it almost paid off for them. But yes, Zeke and Tony Pollard, great day on the ground. I give them the props for that. But my whole issue is that everybody just kept saying, well, Carolina's paper 3-0. They beat who was in front of them, but they ain't really beat nobody. I'm not impressed. I don't believe that. Just because you play a rookie quarterback doesn't mean that he's a bum. Zach Wilson isn't a bum. He just don't have nobody on his team. Davis Mills isn't a bum. Houston is just going through a bunch of mess. But don't sleep on Houston, because, he played pretty well, especially for a rookie, a Thursday night game. All the lights are bright, and the lights didn't really seem to shake him that much for a rookie. So don't let the fact that somebody's got an R beside their name make you think that that's just going to be a cakewalk. That's just certainly not the case. Denver's in the same boat. They didn't beat nobody good. Well, Denver's in the same boat, yes, because their defense is expected to keep them in every game. But like I always said, whether it's Denver or Carolina, even though you're leaning heavily on your defense, you can't wear them out. You can make an extraordinary defense look ordinary by doing that. So you have to maintain drives. 3 and out will make any defense, no matter how good it is, look terrible. So that's what I got with Carolina and Dallas on that one. I give my hats off to Dallas. Would the game plan have changed a little bit if C-Mac was in the game? Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Chuba Hubbard, he did okay. Bringing in Royce and bringing in what's my man name? Davis? No. The other running back.
Yeah, Smith, I believe.
Smith. Yeah, Rod Smith. He did good too, but it wasn't C-Mac. No. It wasn't the same kind of game planning that defenses have to make when McCaffrey isn't lined up in the backfield, but he's spread out. He's on the wing, when you're doing your check downs and stuff like that. So I'm not worried about it. I think that Dallas and Carolina, honestly, are going to be pretty good. Carolina gets to lick their wounds. They're going to play Philadelphia. I'm not saying that that's going to be a cakewalk, but I think they're going to have something to prove. And unfortunately, I think Philly is going to be the bearer of that proving. I think they're going to have some. In the words of Clubber, what are they going to have? Pain.
I tell you, I talked a little bit about this last week. You could take one person off one side of the ball, and it changes everything.
Everything.
You take C-Mac off of the from the Carolina Panthers, I mean, it's going to affect you in the same regard as removing Aaron Rodgers from the Green Bay Packers or removing a Dak from the Cowboys. Then we saw what happened with that last year. C-Mac changes everything. You have to account for him, and that opens up every single body else.
If you took Lamar Jackson away from the Ravens, it changes the way you game plan for the Ravens.
Completely. You take a TJ Watt from the Steelers defense, and you saw what happened there.
Yeah.
So sometimes you could take one player from one side of the ball, and again, I ain't making no excuses, but the Panthers had their two best players from both sides of the ball. J.C. Horn gone, C-Mac gone from the offensive side. So we will see down the road. I believe this squad is going to the playoffs, and that's not from me just touting their little 3-0 start. I said this in the preseason. Brian, you backed me. I thought that Carolina was going to get to the playoffs regardless. Dallas, we also said you were going to go to the playoffs. You're going to win the East. So both teams are on path with what we said was going to happen.
And Dallas, you help us if you outright win your division, because then you don't take up a wild card spot. You just take up a division spot.
Right.
So that helps us, because even if we don't win the division, there's a chance for us to get one of the wild card spots, because nobody else in your conference is going to the playoffs.
I would hope
for a while. Hey, I kind of want to change this up too, because this was something that was really funny to me. Don't sleep on my team, Washington. I'm not going to sleep on them, but I'm just not going to really act like they're there. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, Anthony. I think Washington is they're going through some things. I'm not going to sleep on them, but they pretty much have to win their division to make the playoffs, because I think any team in the NFC that is either going to the playoffs as a division winner or a wild card is going to probably have to win minimum 10 or 11 games.
They better find last year's defense, I tell you that.
Yeah, so Anthony, I ain't sleeping on them, but if you can count to 10 as far as wins with the Washington football team, give them to me. I'll wait. While you do that, I wanted to bring up the end of the Ravens Broncos game that's been getting so much backlash, where Coach Vic Fangio had some choice comments for the way that Mr. Harbaugh made a decision to run the ball at the end of the game. Man, I'm for real. Like, dude, grow up. Oh, he boo-hooing, ran. He crying up a storm. So anybody that didn't watch it, basically, in the final minutes of the game, the Broncos are down by 16, and they are still playing. They're not taking a knee. They are aware that the Baltimore Ravens have a chance to tie an NFL record of most 100-yard rushing games in consecutive games. And they were about 4 yards short of this. You had the ball in your hand with 30-something seconds left. There is no way in hell you can make up 16 points in that time period. But they're playing anyway. And their quarterback, the great Drew Lock, who came in for Teddy Bridgewater. I'm hurt again, Bridgewater. Throws the ball in the end zone and gets picked off. So you give Baltimore the ball back with 5 seconds left in the game. And to get the record, they call a play for Lamar Jackson to run to the left, power run left. And after he gets 4 or 5 yards, he's supposed to slide down to the ground, let the rest of the clock run out. And that's what he did. They got their record and they celebrated. And after the game, when they asked Vic Fangio, the coach, about it, he said, yeah, I thought that was kind of, what did he call it? Bull crap.
Yeah.
And
the Ravens.
Yeah, he
not
caring
about player safety.
He talking about it was, they not looking at player safety. Bro, they were going after a record that meant more to them than it did to you. I loved John Harbaugh's comments about, hey, listen, I don't know any touchdown that's a 16-point touchdown, so what were they playing for? You know, he talking about player safety. Why you got them risking their safety to get a late touchdown that ain't gonna change the outcome of the game?
Man, that
And,
was the
and totally
softest.
right.
That was the softest crap I've heard in a long time. But
Could you believe he said 30? He's been in the league 37 years, and that's the worst thing he's ever seen.
that's the
Really?
worst thing he's ever seen. Come on, bro.
Really?
The sissification of the NFL is starting to be concerning. When you got a head coach saying some crap like that, it's like, come on. If you don't like it, stop
him.
Stop it. If you don't like it, stop it.
Stop him.
Look, as much as I hate the Ravens, being a Steeler fan that I am, we own the record. It was the Steelers that owned the record.
Right.
So of course, Baltimore wants to break that record. They hate us. They hate us. Leave them alone, man.
And these are ways that you motivate your team. Harbaugh was totally right. That goes with them for the rest of their lives. Hey, we broke that record, and it was Pittsburgh's record.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, if you have a problem with a team running up a score on you or something like that, you got the same amount of players on your side of the ball as they got on their side of the ball. I'm not that person that subscribes to sport. Well, I do subscribe to sportsmanship. I don't want it to come out the wrong way. But if they choose to score, because by doing that, that may give one of their players the opportunity to make one of their bonus triggers, or maybe the quarterback has to have so many snaps to reach this bonus trigger. I don't have a problem with that. Everybody's motivation is different on that field. It's not about player safety. Every time a player takes a snap, there's a chance that that could be their last snap. Every player has to accept that and acknowledge that. If you're being reckless, that's one thing. But if you're just playing the game of football, that's why sometimes I don't agree with just sitting out your players all through preseason because you think that they're going to get hurt. How many of them got hamstring injuries now? I mean, you as much as you want to try to avoid the injury bug just sit there and go, I'll wait. I got all day. So, you know, and then to just be, when you brought in player safety, Vic, you were just being petty and dramatic. And I'm sorry, Vic. There's some words that I really want to attach to you right now, but you know it's before 8:00. I ain't gonna say them words right now.
Yeah, because I didn't want to use the term sissification of the NFL, but I chose that one instead of the word that I really wanted to use.
Yeah, he on some little Nas X stuff, but I just thought that was a hilarious story just because of the fact that he was crying. And, you know, Harbaugh was just surprised because he was like, man, I thought we were good. I thought we was in a good place. But he's like, I ain't going to even let that bother me. I'm going to sleep good tonight. I ain't even worried about it. So that was funny. Okay, so not dipping so much back into the Cowboys, but the Cowboys did make that surprising move. In some ways surprising, in some ways really not. Releasing Jaylon Smith. I don't expect him to be a free agent too long.
No. Somebody's gonna gobble that dude up, man.
Yeah, it just seemed like he got caught an odd man out. Micah Parsons has been more than billed. He's lined up in different places, and none of it has really seemed to phase him. As a rookie, you really don't know how much you can put on their plate. And it just seems like the more that they give him to do, he just excels at it. Dude is just an athlete. I don't even know what position you can call him. Now, that could be hard because when you're trying to slot him in for his second contract, do you pay him as a linebacker? Do you pay him as an end? How do you pay him? You know, some tight ends end up having that problem because they take so many snaps. They want to get paid on a receiver level versus a tight end because the scale ain't the same. So that's going to be your only problem with Micah Parsons down the road. But right now, dude is performing at a high level, and it basically put Jaylon Smith in a expendable file. But but you know, they say is one person's junk is another person's treasure. So somebody about to have a treasure.
And I'll give it to the Cowboys in this regard. You know, back in the day, they wouldn't have even drafted Parsons. They would have took that nice, shiny wide receiver type that
Uh-oh.
Jerry used to fall in love with. But I have to give it to them. They built a hell of a defense. It looks like, and it looks like things are finally coming together, at least for those linebackers, which made Smith expendable. Still got Jabril Cox there. That was
Yep.
somebody I had my eye out on in the draft, and evidently he's going to be next man up and at a way cheaper cost. So you got him, you got Parsons, you got my boy Vander Esch. That's
Yep.
still a formidable linebacker.
I agree.
Rotation.
I agree.
So, yeah,
Anthony just submitted that the Packers are finishing up a deal with Smith. He's going to Green Bay.
Well, that will make Green Bay a lot better on defense. I can see him completely fitting in with that. I really do. Good move. That's a good find.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have let him. Well, Dallas, man, he's going to be in your conference. Oh, woo!
He's going to be looking to take some heads off.
Yeah, that's going to be crazy. Okay, so I waited as long as I could. Pittsburgh, what's going on with these Steelers? I see now that Big Ben is having a little hip pain.
Did you read between the lines of the post that I put out? All of a sudden, Ben's got hip pain going on, and it may cause him to miss some games.
Well, it reminded me of when Tyrod Taylor, and we laughed about this last season. With Tyrod, they always talk about, you don't lose your position to injury and stuff like that, which is just not true anymore. But how they said, oh, take your time, Tyrod. Heal up completely. We good.
Heal completely.
Just take your time. We good. Justin Herbert. Take your time. We good, Tyrod. And he never came back. So I don't know if this is their way of saying, hey, Ben, why don't you do this? Just take a couple of weeks off and heal. And then we'll reevaluate this. And does that open up the door for Haskins? Does that open up the door for Rudolph? Does that open up the door for Cam Newton?
I'm assuming it's going to open up the door for Mason Rudolph. To me, he seems, out of the three that you just named, the most logical choice. We got to see what we got in some of these dudes in like real game situations and not just the preseason, because you spend the draft choices and money for them. So we got to see what's up with them. So I would think Mason will be next up. If Mason doesn't perform, Haskins will get his shot. I don't think that Cam will come in. I would love to see Cam in there, to be honest, because with the struggle that the Steelers are doing as far as their run game, I think they need somebody like a Cam that would open things up a little, because right now there's no threat at all of the quarterback running anywhere. Ben is a statue,
except for out of bounds for his life.
Right. Ben is the Statue of Liberty in the pocket at this stage in his career. And that is a bad combination with a bad offensive line.
It is.
The Steelers got to do something, man. You cannot just keep wheeling Big Ben out there week after week. And he's performing at this level, which is 1 touchdown pass per game. But
in the same amount in interceptions, 4 TDs.
Exactly. You can't just continue to do that. What is the definition of insanity?
Same thing.
You got to make some kind of change. Yeah.
And even if they bring Cam Newton on, they're gonna have to worry about his vaccination status,
right?
Like a Kyrie. So that's going to be an issue too. If you bring him on, do you have him on the practice squad and you call him up if you need him? Do you keep him out of team meetings? So those would have to be things that they would have to consider too. Ben is done this year. Too many hits. He's been taking over the years. Mother time just arrived and gave Ben her hand. Isn't it
Mother time?
Is it Father time, Anthony?
Yeah, maybe Father time. Father Nature.
Was Father busy and then Mother time showed up? Just don't know.
Father Nature making it snow and rain these days.
Normally, and Rand, you said this last week too. How players can get old really, really quick towards the end of their career. Like first couple of games or season, they look really, really great. And then next thing you know, time is just caught up with them, which, again, and, people probably watch this show and think that I'm a Tom Brady fan. I'm not a Tom Brady fan. I just respect the man because he's 44 years old, and I'm only 3 years older than him, and he doing stuff that there's no way that I could do at that age. So I have all the respect in the world. He's out there playing guys. He just played Mac Jones, and Mac Jones was 1 year old when he got drafted. Okay. So he's doing stuff that regular people can't do, that Drew Brees had to say, I got to sit down. Andrew Luck said, I got to sit down. Peyton Manning said, I got to sit down. Eli Manning said, I got to sit down. And all of them were playing when he played, and he's still standing. So Father Time will catch up with you and make you look real old real quick. And that's what's happening to Ben. And you're right. The thing that made Ben great is now the thing that is playing against him. What made Ben great was you were trying to sack a freaking linebacker.
Right.
You were trying to sack a tackle, and you couldn't. He was too big. It was like trying to sack Derrick Henry. Dude's too big. But now, because he's taken all those hits and been able to fend people off, it's kind of like Cam Newton. All of those hits start to take a toll on you. Your body starts to betray you. The one thing that you sat there and you took care of your entire career starts to break down and betray you. And the player has to deal with the fact that where their brain is and where their body is two different places.
I don't even like the body language that I see out of Ben. It's like he'll be in the pocket and the pocket will start collapsing around him. He's no longer looking for plays downfield. He's now tucking the ball and waiting for that hit and kind of looking like a kid in the corner, man, about to get a spanking. After he throws an interception, the camera goes on him and he's looking. It used to be like he's barking at the receiver. Hey, you ran this route wrong, blah, 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 blah. Or he's pissed off because of, I don't know, the defender did something. Now he throws these interceptions and it's almost like he don't even know what happened. It's like he meant one thing and the other happened. Mm-hmm. So those are just signs that it's time to give it up. It's time to give it up, man. It really is. And as a true Steeler fan that I am and a huge Big Ben fan that I am, it's just really sad to sit here and watch somebody decline right in front of my eyes. And I don't want to have that to go on for 13 more games. Yeah, man, they got to make some kind of move. And if it's a saving grace move as far as like keeping somebody on the bench and saying they got an injury, then let them do it.
You know, Ben is an institution, and I think they're trying to let him write the final page of the book.
Yeah, they are.
So that they are, even if it almost means giving Mike Tomlin his first losing season and basically writing this season off. And not every organization would do this, but every organization doesn't have a player that has been around this long and has meant so much, not just to that team, but to that whole area. Right. Do you let Ben go out on his own terms, even to what anybody reasonably would say is to the detriment of the team? Or do you have that talk in private with Ben and just say, hey, Ben, man, you know, I don't want you to be remembered hobbling off this field. I want the memories of you to be good. When you come back, we put you in our ring of honor. The clock starts ticking for Canton and everything else. We want to have you remembered as a champion going out on your own terms. To me, I would have that conversation with him to say, do you really feel like you're going to give us the best chance to win? And how do you want your legacy to be written? I mean, it's already pretty much written, but a lot of times people's memories of you is sometimes the last thing they've seen about you. So do we, because he's one big hit away from not getting back up no more. And that's the last you see of him. And I don't want him to go out that way. I really don't. So I'm kind of concerned, you know, when Vic Fangio talks about player safety, I'm more concerned about Ben's safety, because Ben ain't going to be able to protect himself going down if he takes a hit. So
Right.
I'm concerned for him more so than
I'd be
the Steelers record or anything.
I'd be concerned for him too because he's so hard headed and so prideful that he's not going to just sit down or not admit his injuries are forcing him to kind of take a step back. He's the Apollo Creed in Rocky Four, is what he is. Uh, just refusing to stop fighting to even to his own detriment. So
Yeah.
somebody's got to throw in the towel for this dude.
Anthony says, I like what Randall said. Mike Tomlin just needs to put his foot down and sit him. It's over. Ben's just trying to earn his money, but money over your life. Well, I mean, honestly, Anthony, he's going to get the money whether he plays or not. You know,
Yeah.
the money's already accounted for. What's even worse than money over your life is your pride over your life. So I think you're there, but it's not so much money. Ben has made so much money with this organization over his career. He's making a whole lot of money just in this year alone. It's not money. It's pride.
Yeah.
It's you believe you've performed at such a high level for so long. The knowledge that you have in your head, the things that you've forgotten about, Randolph and Haskins don't even know. You know that what you got up here is more than the other two quarterbacks behind you combined. The experience, just the nuances, all those different things that you've had so long. You've been the top of what you do for so long. It's hard to accept the fact that you ain't that dude no more. Remember when Jordan went out with the Wizards and he could barely get off the damn ground and he was called Air Jordan and he wasn't Air no more. Remember when Kobe had to start kicking his leg up because he couldn't get up in the air no more. It was different. Remember when Emmitt Smith had to go to Kansas City. Remember when Montana had to leave. And they were never really the same because normally the player still thinks that they have more left in the tank. And the organization has said, maybe you do, but I'd rather get rid of you a year too early than wait a year too late. And that's what a lot of organizations do. That's why New England thought that it was time to get rid of Tom Brady. Nobody saw that coming, and they were right to do it because, hey, you don't wait a year too late. Even if you get rid of them a year too early, that gives you that time to get somebody in there and going. The problem that Pittsburgh has had is they didn't have a contingency plan, and I don't know how because you knew how old this dude is and you know how many hits he's been taking. There's no way in hell you're going to lead me to believe that you thought that Mason Rudolph was your long-term contingency plan.
No, Mason's a 5th round pick, I do believe.
Yes.
So, and they've got nobody else up in there, bringing Haskins in here recently, but everybody else has been like the guy from Tennessee, which I can't even remember his name now. He's no longer on the team, but no, 5th round pick is about the highest they've invested over the past few years in a backup quarterback, several years over a backup quarterback. You know, they fell for Big Ben's talk. About 2 years ago, when Ben had his arm injury, in an interview, he felt that he could play 4 more seasons, you know, trying to do that Tom Brady thing. Well, we're a year and a half to 2 years in on that 4 years that he said he could play, and he's already broken down to a level that I don't see him going another season period.
Hell no.
Not even finishing this one.
I mean, if you let him, he will.
If you let him, he will. Yeah, if you let him, he'll resign and come back next year. But it's got to be a point where you as an organization have to say,
listen, I understand if you go too high of a draft pick, now you're committing to, you've got to be able to play this guy sooner than later because the clock starts ticking with the 4-year +1 contracts, where in that 5th year, before the 5th year goes, if you're going to extend them, you normally extend them in the 3rd year, the 4th year, and stuff like that. But if you sit him on the bench too long and you don't know what you have, then either you got to trade him and move on. So then you have to restart the clock. I get that. Same reason why the Jets got rid of Sam Darnold and went on with Zach Wilson, because they weren't ready to commit to Sam Darnold, but his time was coming up for a contract. So I get all of those things. So you don't put a high draft pick on the shelf too long, because then you're not going to get your return off of it. I totally get that. But the writing should have already been on the wall that, hey, we need to at least move up. We need to go after one of these top quarterbacks this year. I just don't think that they really planned on that. I think they, like you said, they listened to Ben too much and made an irrational decision. So unfortunately,
really,
that means that you're going to have to rebuild and suffer some really tough games and tough seasons ahead.
Yeah, they really are appeasing Ben, because the Steelers are traditionally known for one of those teams that moves on from players before this happens.
Mm-hmm.
This particular situation, they are riding it all the way out. I've been on record
literally till the wheels fall off.
Yep. I've been on record many times of saying that last year should have been Ben's last season. I didn't think they should have brought him back this year, but they did. So here we are. So
yeah. You want to get a player at their peak. You don't want to ride with them on the way down. Yeah. And you're doing a disservice to them actually by letting them, again, because you don't want the last image to be one of him limping off the field or getting carted off the field. And that's just my thing. When you think about a great person, you think about all of their accomplishments and things like that. And he's got plenty to be able to sit back on and reflect on and count his millions and millions of dollars that he's made. So, at this point, my prediction is probably going to come true. I know you don't want to hear that when I pick them fourth, but
I still don't know about that.
Cincinnati ain't going to get it to him. It's like Jerry Jones and Tony Romo relationship with Ben and the owner. They're going to ride it out. Yeah, and if you remember, how did Romo end? Getting carted out. So my point exactly. That's just not the look. Speaking of new beginnings, the Chicago Bears, Matt Nagy, has finally come to his senses and is made the decision to start Justin Fields for the remainder of the season, regardless of the health of one Andy Red Rocket Dalton. This was kind of a no-brainer. The way Fields did rebound, and I want to say rebound in some ways, but in the last show, I did say that my conspiracy theory was he set him up to get his ass whooped.
He did. He absolutely did.
Just to try to prove a point to the fans, ownership, anybody else that had been berating him about putting Justin Fields out there. But then all of a sudden last week, Fields just plays his heart out and looks totally different than the week before and gets his first win over the Detroit Lions. Now, the defense definitely helped out a lot. They stepped up.
But I'm sure the run game helped out a lot.
Yeah, but Fields threw a nice bomb and a couple of other nice, accurate passes. They rolled him out. You accentuated his gifts, and he played under center a little bit more. So there were definitely a lot more things that looked like you were playing to his skill set than just throwing him out there and making him a target to get the wheels knocked off of him. So good going for them. The New York Jets did get a first win of the season, 27-24 over the Tennessee Titans. So let me ask this question. Did the Jets just catch the Titans on a bad day? Are the Jets better than we thought? And does this legitimize the Jets a little bit more because they beat arguably the best team in the AFC East?
Well, this league is so funny with the ups and downs. It is just so hard to really get a pulse on where these teams are.
I'm sorry. And Tennessee did not have Julio and Brown for this game.
Right. So I believe it's a little bit of that. I still think the cupboard's pretty bare for the Jets. But besides me saying that, Zach is the man at quarterback. I think the Jets finally got themselves a good one. And as long as they could put the correct pieces around him, including a line, including receivers, and a running back, I think they're off to a couple of years of being
Man,
competitive in the
it was
AFC East.
decent. 21 to
Yeah,
34, 297, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick.
absolutely. I like the kid in college. I liked what I saw from him. Even the first game where he played with Carolina, he got his butt handed to him and kicked, but he never stopped coming. He
Nah,
never let that derail him.
his second half adjustment was a lot
Yes.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, they rattled him in the first half and it showed. But when he came back out after halftime, he looked like a totally different player. His poise was unbelievable. And that's what I meant by like him and Davis Mills. Just because they're rookies, look at their poise. Is
Yeah.
the game too big for them? Is it too fast? Are the lights too bright? You don't get that feeling with some of these guys. Even when I watched Trey Lance play the other day, he's like, I belong here. That's how a lot of these
Exactly.
guys are playing. Like, I might be young, I might still got a little Similac on my, my mouth or something, but I belong here.
Yep.
And that's amazing to see. That's really good.
Yep.
So,
As
yeah,
bad as the beating his Fields took last week, he comes back and he steps up and he's commanding the
shakes it
quarterback
off.
position this week. So that's
Shakes
what
it
you got
off.
to have from your quarterback: the
Yeah,
ability to wipe your
big ones.
shirt off, get up,
Big
and
ones.
continue your trucker.
So Anthony says 2 comments. The Bears messed up having Andy and Nick Foles and Justin on the same team. I agree with the Nick Foles part. I think that was overkill because Nick Foles is not a third string quarterback should be a third string quarterback for any team. Titans defense is going downhill. Yeah, but they still have Derrick Henry. who I just got to tell you, Derrick Henry, 33 carries in that game. For 157 yards and a touchdown. So he didn't have like 4 touchdowns. But listen, this is like a wrecking ball number. 33 carries in a game for one running back. And they hit over 157. That's just grinding you. He just beating you. He might get a yard here, 6 there, rip off 2 more, then hit you for 12. But he just keep coming and just keep wearing. It's like taking body blows in a boxing match. That 12th round don't feel like them hits from the first round. They feel it's harder. They sting more. It take you longer to get back up from them. So, he's punishing. He's just punishing. I don't know how many years in the league he going to really last, but damn, he looks good right now.
I'm saying he just does it week after week, too. That's the most impressive thing about him. Over 25 carries again this week after having over 25 last week. So it's just the dude just keeps coming. He's that old school Earl Campbell.
Hey, whose stat was this? 28 of 40, 402 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 pick. He was in the NFC.
Matt Ryan.
Check it out. This person was the NFC Offensive Player of the Week. That would be one Danny Dimes.
You gotta be kidding.
I kid you not. He was named Offensive Player of the Week. Danny Dimes put up 40 passes and hit 28, 400 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Wow, Saints. Wow. Damn, Saints.
Yeah. So that's amazing. Congratulations. This is a prove it year for him and Dave Gettleman. So I think their futures are intertwined. If the Giants have a winning season, then Dave Gettleman is probably going to be okay. If they don't, I think it's over. Saquon Barkley actually had a touchdown, but it wasn't so much his rushing. He had 52 yards rushing. It was just 74 yards receiving. So he's actually getting out on the flats. He's running routes. He's catching some nice passes. His 5 for 74 is 14 yards a catch. So he had some, people were talking about Saquon getting back to being Saquon. When you had that kind of an injury, and for what you do, it's going to take some time because you have to trust your leg. So he's got to build that trust back for his leg for sure. I was rooting for the NFC East all weekend because I wanted the Giants to beat the Saints, of course, so Carolina could keep their record. And then I was rooting for Washington football team to beat the Falcons, and they came back and beat them too. So off of McLaren's airborne turn into the end zone where not one part of his body actually touched the inside, and somehow that's a touchdown. So I understand goal line extended, but normally that means one part of your body has to go inside the pylon.
Yeah.
But he couldn't because they made him airborne around the 3-4 yard line. So no part of his body was in before it was out. But if you go goal line extended, yeah, he eventually crossed, which I don't understand, because if I'm a receiver and I go through the end zone and I catch the ball goal line extended, I'm out of bounds. Okay. I'm thinking about too much of it. I'm acting like it's supposed to make sense. Okay. Anyway, Washington did win that game, so congratulations to them as well. I know we got like 1 minute left, so who are you looking at for this week coming up as your game?
Who's on the schedule? I haven't really paid too much.
We got Rams Seahawks tomorrow for our Thursday night game on Amazon. I believe it's Amazon. You've got that game coming up. Let me see. You've got Broncos Steelers on Sunday. You've got Giants Cowboys on Sunday. You've got the Bills and the Chiefs Sunday night, which is probably going to be a good one. Colts Ravens Monday night. I think the Ravens are going to win that one. You've got the 49ers and the Cardinals Sunday afternoon. That could be a good game. I don't know if Jimmy G is going to be able to play in that game. So what you may see is Trey Lance doing his best Kyler Murray impression. You may see the battle of the Kyler Murrays on Sunday, which I think is going to happen. You've got the Raiders and the Bears, where Derek Carr is going to have to lick his wounds. Chicago's going to come to town with that defense and try to hand them 2 losses in a row. Other matchups don't really seem that sexy. Saints at Washington, Dolphins at Bucks, Titans at Jags, Eagles at Panthers, Patriots at Texans, Lions at Vikings. Wake me up when this is over.
Yeah.
Anthony put Chiefs versus Rams. Is that this week? Did I just say that? Yeah, that's tomorrow. That's probably going to be one of your better games right there. Matthew Stafford, Russell Wilson is going to be in Seattle. 12th man is going to be there. I think that is going to be probably one of the better games of the whole entire week.
Yeah.
And for the Bills and Chiefs, of course. I think Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, because it's going to be at Arrowhead, that's going to be a shootout.
Yeah.
I just got that feeling. That's going to be a shootout.
So, of course, I'll be paying attention to my Panthers and Steelers this week, just seeing how the Panthers are going to rebound from last week's loss and see if these Steelers could break this losing streak, get back to 2-3, and maybe reevaluate some things. But if they lose this one, yeah,
I know.
Time will be too long out of the hole.
I know it's a hard week for the both of us because we're also Yankee fans. Rest in peace to a 92-win season. You beat the Red Sox 3 times over the last month. This should have been more of a formality. I have no idea what to say about my Yankees. But
I'm so sick of them. I got nothing to say. I know. After you strike out that many times in a postseason game, man, come on.
I know.
And then you get beat by the very pitcher that you brought into the organization. Whatever. I'm done.
Oh man, it's a hard week for us. It's a hard week. So yeah, there we go. Anyway, we'll wrap it up for this week. We'll be back next week for you guys. We thank you all for watching and listening wherever you are and what outlet that you're on. I'm Brian Parker with Randall Hargrove signing out. Y'all enjoy. Have a great week. We'll see y'all next week.